And now I'm at Rugby Australia, and my role is a mix of brand. So doing campaigns to make people fall in love with or stay in love with rugby and the Wallabies. And also a mix of retail as well. So selling tickets for test matches, such as the Bledisloe this Saturday at ANZ Stadium, which we're working hard to try and sell that out this weekend. I'll just change slides. So I'm a bit of a digital marketing nerd when it comes to this stuff, and I absolutely love this space because it changes every day and it's never the same. Whether it's a new platform coming out or an algorithm change or capabilities in tracking, it's always keeping you on your toes, and there's always something new to learn, which also makes it a tricky space to navigate as well. So this graph is a little bit old, but it paints a good picture about the rate of technological change and adaptation. So it took over 30 years, as you can see there, for the popularization of power steering to go from 100% uptake. It took over 30 years. It took 25 years for everyone to go from the invention of the microwave, for everyone to have a microwave, pretty much, almost. And then if you think about 10 years ago, we didn't really have smartphones, and now 91% of all Australians have a smartphone. And then it's getting even quicker when it comes to things like a tablet, or even probably further on this graph is like smartwatches and other tech like that. So the uptake is just exponentially increasing in terms of how quickly we are to adapt to change and technological change. So today I'm going to be talking through the primary digital marketing channels for any small business, and run through the best practice approach for how you can reach and retain more customers. I'm sure you all have different levels of knowledge, and you're probably at different stages with your digital marketing or your business. So I'll just try to keep it quite general, but I hope you can come away with a few nuggets of knowledge that you didn't have before. So don't worry too much about madly taking notes or anything like that. I can share these slides with you later as well, and have them distributed. So if you have any questions along the way, we'll have a Q&A at the end. Okay. So for the agenda, we'll run through, first of all, so the primary channels: website, social media, SEO and SEM for search marketing, email marketing, measurement and analytics as well. So kicking off with your website. So I like to call this your business's front door, or your digital shop front. What's really important with your website is avoiding clutter. Think about what the first thing it is that you want your visitors to see, as if it was an actual shop front, you know, your best product that you put in the window. Make this your clear one point of focus. So yeah, it can be a problem where people overload their front page with a whole lot of choices, and they want to showcase all their products, but you want to put your best value proposition up front and center. And I think I have an example here where it's kept it quite clean. It's just their best products, #1 photo rated, a bit of an offer, and they've literally just above the fold, which is the visible part, is just one clean offer. Which is really important. A call to action. So, so important to call out what you want people to do on your site. So whether it's book now, sign up, buy now, whatever it is, make sure you tell them that. People need to just be told sometimes. And a fun fact is that the most effective button for purchasing behavior is actually orange. So they've done a whole lot of testing, and they found that people are more likely to click a button when it's orange if it says buy now or whatever the action might be. Make sure that button is always on the visible section, so they don't have to scroll down to be able to see that. So I think on this example, you can see sign up, log in, everything like that, if that's the action, or sorry, create now is clearly visible and in a different color as well. For e-commerce platforms, make sure it's an easy checkout process, like this dog in a Tonka truck over here. You want to remove any sort of hurdles that people might have to go through to be able to buy from your site. Remove any unnecessary steps. Just make it as easy as possible, and include information all along the user journey, which confirms their purchase decision. So whether it's sort of reinforcing the decision that they've made along the way with some copy or images as well. Encourage people, but don't force them to sign up to register an account. If it's going to be an inhibitor to them purchasing, then you might want to leave that out, but definitely give them the option, because that'll be an important part of a marketing strategy, which leads to the next point about building an email list. So we'll talk about the importance of email a little bit later on as well, but if you can make it easy for people to subscribe and less points of data for them to enter, to just add in their email address and join your database as well. And then make sure it's mobile friendly. So often websites are built on a desktop, and where, you know, when we're at work, we're on the desktop, and you get into a pattern of just building everything for the big screen. However, as half the traffic online is now moving to mobile, it's more and more important than ever that your website looks good and renders correctly, and all the images are correctly aligned on mobile rather than desktop. Right, so I've got interspersed with some each of the sort of modules. I'm going to have a digital marketing fun fact, well, that I find fun anyway. So which is the second largest search engine in the world? Number one obviously would be Google. And when I'm talking about search engine, I'm probably referring to anyone entering some sort of text into a search bar on any website. And this would probably surprise a lot of people. It's actually YouTube. So the second most amount of searches in the world comes off YouTube, which is also owned by Google. So they very much dominate that space. And some interesting facts about YouTube. So YouTube actually rates higher in terms of people viewing it than any TV station in a given week in Australia. So there's more people on YouTube every week spending more time there than on Channel 7, Channel 9, 10, anything like that, ABC and the rest. So when you're thinking about, oh, you'd like to do a TV campaign or something like that, it's a pretty great way to be able to run, you know, a video campaign without the high price tag of TV, and you're also reducing your wastage. So you're not hitting everybody who's watching a certain program. You can actually target via geography or whatever demographic you would like to target. So it's a very cost efficient way to do what is an equivalent of a TV campaign as well. And YouTube actually has a higher engagement rate. So, and more people spend longer on YouTube than they do on Twitter and Facebook as well. So coming on to social media. So I think the first step is to consider what platforms make the most sense for your business and where your target audience is spending their time online. So unless you have a full-fledged social media team, which we don't even have that at Rugby Australia, I'd be concentrating on 1 to 2 platforms that you just want to concentrate your effort on, rather than spreading yourself too thin or trying to work across multiple platforms. So Facebook, which is pretty much everybody in Australia right now, should largely be the primary channel that you would use for any business. The only one I'd probably say, unless you're targeting a very, very young audience, they tend to be tuning off Facebook these days. The sort of Gen Z audience, they're using it less and less. They probably still have an account, but not tend to spend as much time on it. Apparently they're calling it boomer book now. So, geez, that makes us feel old. Instagram is a great one as well, probably the second best platform in terms of reach, and then great for anything visual. So if you've got a product or something that you can take photos of, or anything with video and content that you can share. LinkedIn, obviously great for the business to business, B2B market, or anything corporate. However, if you wanted to spend money through that platform, it is very expensive. It's probably about 10 times more expensive than a Facebook or Instagram. But I guess you're getting a more sort of professional, high net worth individual that you're targeting. So it might pay dividends. Twitter has a smaller reach, but it still has its value in terms of, you know, in the space of news, politics, sport, information and business. So it still has a place there. And then the likes of sort of Snapchat, TikTok and Pinterest is probably just for a younger demographic. And you know, at Rugby Australia, don't even have the bandwidth to play in those spaces. So probably deprioritize those unless you have the bandwidth as well. Organic content. So tone of voice. So it's important when you're starting out to sort of define what is the best tone of voice for your brand. So it needs to make sure it appeals to your target demographic. So, you know, if it's a professional services brand or finance, for example, you don't want to be going in with a fun, colloquial, full of humor sort of tone of voice if it's not reflecting your brand. And then also if it doesn't appeal to your demographic of who you're trying to talk to. And then important, once you've defined your tone of voice, and it's good to jot it down about how you want your brand to be communicated, it's then important to keep that consistent. So whether it's across multiple channels, social channels, or make sure it's similar on your website, on your emails, and then on sort of all your communications that go out. And no matter who's posting, whether it's not yourself, you can make sure that there's sort of a guidebook to how you want to keep that tone of voice consistent, so people can't tell that someone else is posting on the page. Always keep it visual. So use video wherever possible. I'm not sure if any of you seen the show on Netflix called The Social Dilemma that's been doing the rounds lately, but the gist of it is about that social media is basically people bidding for your attention. And so social media is all about gaining sort of the people's mind frame and their attention. So if you've got a video, that's obviously going to capture a lot more attention than flicking past something that's text and an image. Yeah, that cuts through the clutter, and it's best to create thumb-stopping content, but we'll talk to that a little bit later on as well. It's a good idea to set up a content calendar for posting, which can be a mix of sort of planned content, but then also factor for some reactive content. So maybe set up a few times a week where you've got, you know, pre-made content of something that you've already prepared, but then also leave some space for some reactive content, which might be something that's happening in the news, for example, with Victoria being released out of lockdown today. You know, is there something that could be applied from that, or something in the media, or jump on board a social trend with your brand, and people tend to, you know, be more likely to share that sort of content. And it's important with your calendar that you sort of set yourself some goals around how many people you want to reach, who you want to reach, and engagements as well. So if you want to sort of benchmark yourself, put yourself some goals against it, and then track each week about how you're hitting those as well. And that will help you improve on your content and know what works, what doesn't for your audience and for your page as well. So many people ask me how often or when should we post on social? It all depends on the business. It can be so different depending on what industry you're in. I'd just say make sure when you're posting that you have something to say, rather than posting for the hell of it, because that way people can tell that it's not, you know, genuinely something you want to share. But then at the same time, don't go quiet for days on end. So if you go into the analytics side of Facebook, if you've got a business page, there should be an analytics tab that should have some trends in there about when is the best time to post for your business. It'll say, you know, when most of your fans are online, or when you receive the best engagement on your page. So that can be a guide as well. And have a regular content series. So whether it's, I've got here an example is Throwback Thursday, or it could be Monday morning motivation, or come up with your own idea about a certain day of the week or a certain morning where you post something regularly. And it's nice to give some sort of continuity and some consistency to your content, and give your fans a reason to come back and check on your content each week. Digital marketing fun fact number 2. So the first ever digital banner ad. So this was actually 26 years ago, 27th of October, 1994. the first banner ad was on a website called hotwired.com, and it looks like this. Have you ever clicked your mouse right here? You will, which is actually pretty clever considering it was the first ever ad. Now this ad actually had a 40 of all the people who saw it, 44% clicked it. And I can kind of see why, especially if you didn't know what a banner ad was. And that's actually massive considering, so we call that a click-through rate of 44%, which is huge considering that on average at the moment, a click-through rate you would expect from a campaign is about 0.25%. So it's pretty dismal in comparison. So while display ads, they make up a huge proportion of digital advertising and what a lot of companies are spending money on, they're actually becoming less and less effective. So people suffer from what we're calling now banner blindness, where you mentally block out the ads on the side of a page while you're reading an article, and you probably empathize with this. I'm sure if I asked you right now, if you could recall the last banner ad that you saw, you would have no idea. And 54% of people actually say they don't trust banner ads, like where it's going to click through to. So it hasn't got a good rap in the market. A lot of people also use ad blockers. In some countries, it's up to 25% of people who are literally choosing to block these ads out. So it's becoming less and less effective. And the main principle with digital marketing is all about showing people content that they want to see. And so if people, this is telling us that people don't want to see banner ads, then, you know, if that doesn't tell us that, then what does? I think the only effective use of display ads is probably retargeting. You know, when you've looked at some shoes on the Iconic and then you get followed around the internet until you finally end up buying them. That's probably the best use of those ads and the only time you kind of take note of them. And you can set those up probably like a simple campaign of retargeting through Facebook's Business Manager. And they'll give you a sort of step-to-step guide, but you'll just need to implement some tracking on your website. So you might need a web designer to help with that. But for a more complicated or integrated campaign of for retargeting, I recommend using sort of third-party tracker or company specialist in retargeting called AdRoll or something called Criteo as well. So it's probably more technical in the way that those sort of big brands, shopping brands do it as well. Paid social media. So on the other side of the social media coin, unfortunately, the days of Facebook being a sort of free advertising channel are long gone. And now the algorithm dictates who gets shown what content. And it's a fight for your customers' attention, which is sold to the highest bidder. This means that your organic social posts, so just your regular page posts, will reach probably an average of about 5% of your followers. So while you know, it looks good to have X many thousand followers on your page, unfortunately, it doesn't have much weight when you're only reaching 5% with a regular page post. So I think we've got something like 800,000 fans of the Wallabies, but we only reach a few thousand of them every time we post, unfortunately. So if you want to start using Facebook as a proper advertising channel, unfortunately, that means spending money with them. But it is probably one of the most cost-effective and targeted ways to run a campaign because of the targeting. They don't have so much data on who you can target. So there's a few ways you can do spend on Facebook. If it's more sort of a brand awareness and, you know, looking to reach more people and get your brand name out there, it's probably the best way to go is boosting posts and sort of promoting the page, the content that you're already creating for the page. However, if you want to do more of a direct response, sort of buy now retail ads, like the example here from the Fork, then you're best doing a dark post. So those are the posts that aren't visible on your regular Facebook feed. They're actually just only shown to your target demographic of which you choose in your targeting. For both of those, whether it's a page post, boosted page post or a dark ad, I recommend setting up Business Manager because I know there's an easy way to boost a post just from the boost post function on Facebook. However, setting up a business manager account, and you can just easily do this by going to business.facebook.com. You'll be able to do a whole lot more in terms of your tracking, in terms of the targeting that you can access, and then it keeps all your finances together in one spot, keeps all your analytics together, and you can compare different posts. So it's a lot better way to manage all your paid campaigns as well. And once you set up there, it talks you through, once you press create campaign, it'll talk you through all the steps involved with creating a campaign as well. So fun fact number 3, how much time do we spend online? Some scary numbers here. So we actually spent 144 minutes per day on social media average. We check our phones 58 times per day, which is horrifying to think. And then online for 24 hours a week. So think about what you could do with all that time. You could learn a few languages, play a few musical instruments, but alas, we spend it all online. And then we spend more time online than we do with any other form of media. So that's why this digital space is more important than ever. All right, coming across to the wonderful world of search. So search engine optimization, or SEO. The first step with this one, and it's a tricky one, is thinking about all the keywords that people would search for when they're trying to find your business. So there's like the obvious choices, but then there might be some less obvious options when you're thinking about what people might search as well. And then make a list of all of those words or keywords. Then we want to make sure that all of those keywords, anything that people might be looking for, is included in the content in your website. So whether it's included in the names of the pages in the website, or in a blog, or just within the article, the individual pages itself. Make sure that all those words are included. The important thing with SEO as well is not having a high bounce rate. So a bounce rate is when a user comes to your website and then leaves quite quickly and bounce off the site. And it's often when it wasn't the content isn't what they thought it would be. And then when you have a high bounce rate of people clicking off quite quickly, you receive a low ranking from Google. So that's why it's so important that people enjoy the experience on your site, and it is the content that they thought it was going to be when they clicked from search or whatever, and implementing all those sort of best practice website tips that we talked about earlier, and that they stay on the page, because that will get a higher ranking for Google as well. Adding that keyword list that we talked about before, adding all of those into URL, but keeping it short. For example, if you had a cleaning business and it might be housecleaning.com.au, have a landing or a web page for each of the types of cleaning that offers. For example, /carpet cleaning, /exit clean or end of lease cleaning, /oven clean, something like that. Because if they're all in the keywords, Google will be more likely to show up that ad higher if people are searching for it as well in those terms. Naming your images on your website. So this one you might need the help of a web developer because it's in HTML in code. But if pictures are great for humans, but we can tell what they are, but search engines are not so good at knowing what pictures are. So you can actually name all your photos that are on your website. And that will also help the search engine to realize what the content is, and rank higher because of that as well. Making sure your website loads quickly. So unless you've got, heavy high-res videos and things like that, the website should load pretty quickly. Google won't tend to serve up pages that are slow to load. Creating original blog content. So where you can write a small article, doesn't have to be much, but make sure it includes all those keywords of what people are searching. and make sure it's original as well. So Google doesn't like it when pages or content is replicated across multiple websites. If you're ripping off an article or something like that, it actually downgrades your ranking or your score, your quality score with Google. So yeah, some original content, and you can share that on social as well. So it can be doing two jobs as well. And then if you're starting a new website, and obviously straight up once it's published, it won't be ranking very well on search. I recommend probably a small paid search campaign through Google AdWords. Oh, yep, there we go. One does not simply get ranked #1 on Google. So that will rank you at the top of the page straight away, and then this will in turn help your organic listing to be ranked higher as well. You might want to get an agency to help you do that, because it's actually a minefield, SEO, and the Google algorithm changes what it prefers from you every few months. So, but be careful, because there's a lot of dodgy companies online who'll say, oh, we'll guarantee you'll be #1 within a week and all this sort of stuff. That's often BS, because they'll often be gaming the algorithm and doing sort of dirty tricks. But once the Google finds out about that, you can get blacklisted, and then you'll never rank in search, and that's not a good place to be. So be wary of those companies as well. Fun fact #4. So it can take you less than half a second to decide whether you want to stop on a piece of content. Like I'd probably stop on this cute little bear who's doing a dance over there. We are ruthless when it comes to deciding what we want to spend our time on, especially the younger generations who are flicking between content faster than ever before. This is why it's really important we create thumb-stopping content. So when you're scrolling in the newsfeed, what will actually make you stick and stay and watch? There's a number of ways to capture people's attention like this. So mystery is one, putting a headline that sort of captures people's attention. They have to click to find out more and find out what it is. A lot of news websites do this sort of, not clickbait, but you know, you won't believe what so-and-so said to this or whatever. Another way is to make it relatable. So you'll probably know that if you see something that sort of speaks to your truth, or you know, speaks to a human truth, oh my God, that is so me, that you'll tend to tag a friend or send it to a friend and things like that, and spend more time with that content. Entertaining, obviously, and when we go on social media, that's often what we're there for, a bit of entertainment. So this bear fits into that category pretty well. And then also shocking. So not too shocking that it's you know, not favored by Facebook's content rules, but you know, something to grab people's attention and to surprise. But then make sure that you do it quickly. So as mentioned, you have half a second probably to grab their attention, a very short window to engage people. So if it's a video, don't put your best selling point or the gag of a joke at the 30-second mark. Most people are watching max 10 seconds of a video online, unless it's fantastic content or something they really want to engage with. So make sure it's all done in the first few seconds to grab their attention, and then once you have them, you can play out the rest of your content. SEO versus SEM. So SEO, search engine optimization, versus SEM, which is search engine marketing. And SEO is the one here on the left. So that's all your organic, unpaid listings. And that's just, you know, how that ranks is attributed to all those factors that I mentioned just now about their keywords. So I've searched plumbers and they come up, they're the best SEO options there. And then on the right here, we've got all the ads, the ad ones that rank, that'll sit above that content. The good thing about SEO and SEM is it's very cost efficient, and it's a great effective way to grow your business, probably one of the best. And the advantage of SEM, unlike the paid search, unlike other forms of marketing, is that you only pay if people click your link. So just to show up this ad when I search plumber, you're not paying for that at all. It's only if people click the ad that you have to pay. To start up a search campaign, paid search, you just need a Google AdWords account, which you can set up pretty simply, and they'll take you through the steps. But the best way to do is choose your objective. So what do you want to achieve? Is it getting more calls to your business? Is it increasing visitors to your store? Is it driving people to your website? Then pick your location or range. So it might be a 100-kilometre radius of Moree, or whatever the geo range might be. Then create the message that you want to include. So that's all the copy that we have here and the text. And there's some tricks around here about you'll notice a lot of capitalization along here, and making it short and snappy. And then the last step is to pick a cap or a maximum of how much you want to spend per click. Google AdWords, much like Facebook, works as an auction. So the higher you bid, the more likely you are to rank number one. So the more competitive a search term is, the higher the cost per click will be. So for example, the most competitive search terms for financial products. So for example, insurance is number one, followed by loans and then by credit cards. And an average cost per click for those campaigns is $40 to $60. So just for one person to click on that link, which is crazy money. But then I guess if they're selling a product that's worth $1,000 over a year, or $5,000, in interest in a loan, then it's probably worth it, and they'll get the return on investment. But don't worry, we wouldn't have that for a normal campaign. It would probably be around the $2, $3, $4 mark for a regular search campaign for one click to your website. So it can be a really cost-efficient way to generate leads. There's Lionel Richie there asking if you want some leads, which we all do. Digital marketing fun fact number 5. What was the impact of this pandemic on e-commerce in Australia? So the Australian e-commerce grew more than 80% year on year, seen in the 8 weeks after the pandemic was declared by the World Health Organization on the 11th of March, which is staggering figures. And Ben Franzi, who's the general manager for Australia Post, had predicted last year that 2025, we would see the online shopping account for 16 to 18% of all retail. So of all the shopping in Australia, 16 to 18% would be online by 2025. And we've already hit that in 2020. So we're about 5 years ahead of schedule in terms of our online spending habits, thanks to this lovely pandemic. And then you can see in this graph here what industries have been, I guess, positively affected by this trend. And of course, you've seen alcohol go through the roof, especially when the pandemic was announced, gambling and alcohol being recession-proof, of course. And then obviously variety stores, at sort of department store shopping, and the home and garden, with a lot of people spending more time at home and looking to renovate and things like that. So it's been a crazy year in all industries, but also in the digital marketing space, which has probably largely benefited from this trend as well. Email marketing. So they sort of say email marketing is the king of all digital marketing channels, because the return on investment, or ROI, can be as high as 4,400%, which is what we all love as a marketer. Low cost and high return. But of course, that's limited to how many people you can get onto your database. So one of the big ones, and I can't stand this, is using an email that you send from that says do not reply, or not reply, or no reply. It's not a very friendly way. You wouldn't say that to a customer in a shop. So why would you say that to someone over email? Do not reply to this. So yeah, I don't think you should go to customers and say don't contact us. I prefer to see an email where it's actually from someone's name, whether it's a real name or a character that you might have could create, who is sending out these emails, real or not. That gives the business a really personal face. And humanizing your brand is a great idea to get cut through, because people are receiving a lot of these emails, and if they're all sort of faceless EDMs, then you won't get much cut through. Another one as well is testing your subject line. So there is some options for this. So this is an example from a company called CoSchedule, but they're free, and you just literally type in email subject line checker, and you can put in a whatever your subject line might be, or what you think you should do, and then it will give you a quality score for that out of 100. And the higher the score, that means it'll be more likely to be opened and less likely to be picked up by spam filters. Make sure that subject line is really compelling and encourages people to open it, and it's relevant to what the content is inside. Yeah, so if there's a whole lot of terms like free or bonus and things like that that can get picked up by spam filters that you want to avoid. Keep your main message above the fold. So if people have just opened this email, you want to have your main message front and center. People shouldn't have to scroll down, even if it's on mobile or on desktop, to scroll down to see what the main point is that you want to get across. And that's similar to the website best practice as well. And similar to social, only send something if you have something to say. If you've scheduled in a weekly send and you're scrambling to find something to say within that email, then it's probably a good reason not to send it. You want to make sure that it offers value. And if you're taking up space in someone's inbox and you want them to spend time with your email, make sure that there's a value exchange there and that you're providing something of benefit to them. So whether that's an offer, a discount, or you've released a new product that they might be interested, just make sure that it's quality content for them as well. A big one is managing your unsubs or your unsubscribes. Monitor that in your spam percentages as well. So if you're tracking them and they show up to be higher than average, you might want to check the content, go back and have a look at what you sent, what was the subject line, what might have caused people to unsubscribe more than they normally would on that email. And you want to keep that unsubscribe rate under 1% always. So if it flags, then you can go and check on the content and know to sort of improve that for next time or what to avoid. So it's always, everything in digital is really a test and learn. And then if you're continually getting a high spam rate, that can actually permanently damage your ability to send emails to your database. So it's really important that that content is tailored for the audience as well. Personalize your subject line. So if you can include a "Hi, Emily, here's a special offer for you," or something like that with a name, it actually is 26% more likely to be opened by your audience. So it's always a good one. And then, much like your website, always designed for mobile. So I think about 56% of emails on average are opened on a mobile device rather than on the computer. So while you might be designing your email on desktop, remember to check it, see what it looks like. Does it show up properly on your mobile device as well? Digital marketing fun fact number 6. So what's the best time to send an EDM? Open rates are highest, around 24%, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. or after work, which is surprising because I think a lot of people will often try to send it within business hours. And I think it's a symptom of, working normal business hours. Is you think, oh, I'm at my computer, I'm going to be more likely to. But as I mentioned, more people are doing it on email. If they're commuting, they might be more likely to be on their phone and have time to spare to be reading content from businesses. And then the best day for an open rate is a Thursday, but I'll take that with a grain of salt because a lot of businesses know this, and then a lot of companies will send all their emails on a Thursday. So you might actually have more cut through on another day where it's not so cluttered. Because I think the average professional sends 121 emails a day. I think today, me trying to sell out the Bledisloe, there was a lot more than that. But you need to obviously have some clean air and some space to be able to capture those people's attention. Measurement and analytics. This is the best part about digital marketing, but as I said, I'm a digital marketing nerd. So it's an absolute minefield of data that's available to you, unless you want to know what you want to measure and how you want to measure it. So the best thing you can do is go in and decide what you want to achieve, whether it's more hits on your website or more reach on Instagram or more sales. And then you'll need work out what the necessary tools are to measure it. So Facebook offers an analytics and insights tool, which I mentioned before. I think that's here on the right. And then it's either in a dashboard like this, and so you can track your page views, your reach, or you want to increase your post engagement, or you can export the data as well. So you can track that over time as well. So I think you want to decide what metrics are important to you, because otherwise it's a bit overwhelming and there's a wealth of data in here. So just pick, we tend to pick 2 or 3 metrics out of the whole Facebook dashboard. We're looking at reach at the moment and engagement for Facebook and Instagram and followers. So these 3. And then we track them each week. And you might want to check in every day. You might want to check in every fortnight or month. But just make sure you can keep track of where things are trending. I highly recommend Google Analytics if you haven't got that already set up for your website. It's here on the left. If you don't, just go to, it's free, just go to analytics.google.com and you can hook it up to your website. It'll tell you how long people spend on your site, what pages they visit the most, where are they coming from, are they repeat users, and if it's e-commerce site, you can see where they're dropping off in the purchase funnel as well. And then lastly, A/B testing. So this is another great advantage of digital marketing, which you can't really do on traditional marketing, is to test everything, and everything where you can is test and learn. So this is done by having a control group and a variation. So you can do this whether it's on social media, it could be on search, it could be on your website. You have one, for example, in this example, there's a main banner on the website is red. And then you show that to half the group of people, and then the other half will see the main banner being green, and you can test whether that has an impact on sales. And you'd be surprised, things like, for example, that call to action button being orange can actually have something like a 13% increase in sales, which so pretty significant of just something like the color. And we do tests where we might say book now, or we might say buy tickets, and it can have, you know, be the difference of thousands of dollars in terms of the campaign. So I recommend always having at least 1 or 2 of these little mini projects or little experiments on the go at once, to be able to test and learn. And then you can kind of bank your own best practice of what works for your business and what works for your audience, in order to continually, gradually improve what you're doing to improve sales as well. So that is basically everything I've learnt in the past 7 years in my experience in digital marketing, just crammed into about a little over 45 minutes. So sorry if it was information overload, but we'll now go to some questions.
Em, you killed it. We're just going to ask some questions.
I'll speak really loudly, hopefully everyone can hear me. Emilie, you were saying that Google doesn't like replicated content. So, for example, like my business is e-commerce, children's toys. Does that mean for every product description, I should be coming up with my own unique description?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there, but it's okay if it's replicated on your own website, but just not pinched from another website.
Oh, okay, well, I'm kind of pinching from another website.
Oh, you are, okay. Yeah, if possible, it is better to write your own, just edit it slightly. It'll sort of pick up whether it's one big block of exactly the same. So even if you can tweak some of the words, but leave all those search keywords in there, that'll be more favorable for the algorithm.
Emilie, I don't know if you can hear me, but with your SEOs, how do you separate the actual words? Like my business, rural properties, do we put rural properties as one word, or do we separate it with a comma or anything like that?
Yeah, when you're setting it up, is it for organic search or for paid search?
Organic, I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah. Because when in a paid campaign, you can set it up where you put this and this, so it makes sure it's not just doing it for one of the words. But I think the algorithm should be able to pick up the fact that it's when you've referenced it all together as one term, it should recognize that it is that whole section of your text. Otherwise, if you're talking to your web developer, there might be some ways in the code that you can sort of group that term together, if that makes sense. But it'd be in HTML and beyond my knowledge.
Hi, Emilie. In regards to writing a blog, like you can write the most amazing blog, but if nobody actually reads it, does that still help with you?
Yeah. I mean, if no one reads it, at least Google's reading it. The algorithm's reading it. So no, it actually, even if it literally lives on your site and no one goes to that page, it can help you in terms of Google will go, if it's like it's about oven cleaning, and no one ever goes to that page, if Google can see that content is there, it will serve it up to people, more likely to serve it up to people, which is, funny that you're writing information for a computer.
I've got another question too, I think from another share. So when you're saying like naming your photos and that helps the search engine, so like on Shopify, for example, you do the alt text on the photo. Are you naming, like, are you describing that actual photo or are you just putting the product on there? So am I just saying wooden animal blocks, or do I say child playing with wooden animal blocks, like a sentence sort of descriptor?
Yeah, as much as you can, because basically Google doesn't understand what it is. But more so naming it what the relevant to the keywords that people would be searching for. So if it is, you want people to know that it's something for a child, then yes. But if that's not relevant, then it doesn't need to be included. But if it's like the blocks or something, make sure that that's in there. But you don't need to, describe anything in the picture that's not relevant to what people might be searching for, if that makes sense.
Hey, sorry. I was just going to ask, can you stop sharing your screen so they can see your whole face? Is that all right?
Good idea. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
There we go.
Could you be clever enough that you can probably have some keywords, but like using the toy blocks, call it kids specialty store, if that's, does the name have to be relevant to the image, or is that just a sneaky way to get in some more search words?
I couldn't quite hear, but were you asking that could you name the picture something that it's not in a way?
So is it just a tricky way by naming it something else to get people to look at it?
Yeah, like if you had, say you had a picture of a tree, but you were trying to attract people to buy a tractor, you call the picture, red tractors or something like that. But
Yeah, I think Google does have a content recognition system, so it does try to pick up what pictures are, what is in the picture, but sometimes it gets it wrong. So that's why it's really important to name it as well. Like I've seen an example where, it thought it was cheese, but it was actually a picture of butter because it looks quite similar. So it might actually pick up the fact that it's conflicting between the keyword and the image, because it does know a little bit of what's going on. And you don't want to get stung for doing it. Like with search, I just recommend just don't do anything dodgy, even though you think you can kind of get around it, because if you get if they find out you're sort of tricking them, then they'll just blacklist you or just rank you down the bottom, so downgrade your quality score.
Anna? Hi. You might need to. Hi.
How important is it to change your content to the platform that you're posting on, i.e. when you put it on Facebook as opposed to LinkedIn as opposed to Instagram?
Yeah, good question. I think, well, Facebook and Instagram are pretty similar, but like Instagram, for example, I think the shorter copy works and hashtags are more important. So you can use, there's a lot of tools that you can use that we find useful. One example is Buffer, and I think it's something like $8 a month. And you can go in there and you can create a post, but then you that goes across all your different platforms, but you can tweak them slightly, so you don't have to go into every single different platform and rewrite or copy the content. So we would post on Facebook and then maybe tweak the Instagram copy a little bit so it sounds a bit different, and then change. There's no links, for example, on Instagram, so you might want to just, we might say tickets. We might have the ticketing link on Facebook, whereas on Instagram we would say tickets at Ticket Tech and just tag Ticket Tech's page. So just little tweaks like that. I don't think you need to completely reinvent the wheel across both platforms, unless you think that there's a really high overlap of customers on both. And I guess if they're constantly being fed identical content, then it might be worth changing it up for each platform. And then if it's for a completely like a LinkedIn or something, I think that would be more reason to change it up compared to a Facebook and Instagram, which is quite similar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How does that advertising on YouTube work? Is it paid or are you like, how does it? I don't watch anything on YouTube, so I'm the 1% probably who doesn't.
So I missed the first half of it, but I just heard the how does the advertising on YouTube work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a few different types of ads you can buy on YouTube. So the sort of most traditional is a skippable ad. So it can be any length really, like after 15 seconds. So you can create a piece of video. It can be 3 minutes, 10 minutes if you wanted to. And users can skip after 15 seconds. So they just have to watch that first 15 seconds. And then if you're making an ad like that, I'd recommend in doing that piece where you engage people really early, give them something to grab their attention so that they stay and keep watching. The good thing about YouTube skippable ads is that you only pay for an ad if they stay past the skip button. So it's actually a fantastic way if you can engage people in the first 15 seconds, show them your brand, have a quick like, this is what I offer and this is why you should, use us. Within the first 15 seconds, you're actually getting that exposure for free. So it's a bit of a good hack, that one. And then you only pay if people are watching the full 30 seconds or watch past that skip button. So, and then if they're staying on and watching it, then they're probably good people to target who are really interested. So it's quite an efficient way to especially to use video. You can do like a forced ad, so where people have to watch 15 seconds or they have to watch 30 seconds before they go on to watch their content, but you just pay, it's about like $40 cost per 1,000 on that one. It's probably not as I guess consumer friendly and more about choosing what content they want to consume. And then another good product that they've introduced recently is called bumpers. So it's actually a 6-second ad, really quick, really fast, punchy. Here's my brand. This is what I do. Buy now. And it just runs just before a video plays, and they're quite cheap as well. So if you've got something where you can communicate all that message in 6 seconds, then by all means. And it's you don't need to shoot content for that. You can literally get sort of almost like a graphic designer can put those together in terms of a quick animation, whether it's text on screen dropping in or some movement. You can produce those pretty quickly, and it's very cost efficient to go and reach a lot of people. And then Google YouTube ads, you set up the same way as a Google search campaign. So it's through AdWords. So you can set up all your search, and if you wanted to add YouTube to that, and all your tracking is in one dashboard as well.
Wow. Got a question? No, you've killed it. Well done.
Cool. Thanks
Thank you
everyone
so
for
much,
your time.
Thank you
Good
so
luck with all your digital marketing. Thank you.
much, Em. Any questions, I'll make sure that they come through to you and get your details. So
Great. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay, here I am. Emilie, I'd just like to say thank you. I'm sure all of us in the room with the Shopify website will be changing our buy now buttons to orange tomorrow.
Yes, please.
Thank you for the insights, giving us a really great overview. So
Awesome. Yep. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye. We're just going to have a 15-minute break. Thanks.